So what is a man-in-the-middle attack? A man-in-the-middle attack is a cyber attack in which a hacker tricks a user's computer into believing that their machine is the default gateway in order to intercept sensitive network traffic. Hackers can learn a lot about a victim using this method. For example, you are attempting to order a gift for a loved one. Think of all the information you put into a website when ordering a gift. Your login information such as your email and password for the vendor, your credit card information, your billing address, and the address of the gift recipient all become clear as day to the hacker. Other information hackers can obtain through this method is the content of personal or work-related emails and insight into your daily web traffic if their attack is finessed enough.
The general theme with a man-in-the-middle attack is that an attacker comes between the individual and a legitimate destination. This can take many forms. Examples of this kind of hacking includes the spoofing of IP addresses, HTTPS websites, or DNSs. It can also be found in the format of an SSL or an email hijacking. A hijacker may even set up a Wi-Fi connection that looks safe and trusted. People then connect to it, and all of their online activity is compromised and available to the attacker. There have been many famous examples of these attacks, and some of them even predate the internet. One example, Marconi was a Nobel Prize winner who invented the radio. One of his legal advisors was conducting a demo of a transmission, and at that time, a different operator by the name of Mr. Maskelyne intercepted the message and transmitted his own instead. Another well-known examples were found in World War II when British intelligence agents intercepted messages that were intended for German forces. And the use of the Enigma machine to help with this is part of the example as well. A more contemporary one would be in 2014. Lenovo computers had something called the Superfish Visual Discovery installed on it. The purpose of this software was to understand what users were viewing and then deliver ads based on their content. However, the problem was it actually had much more damaging consequences. The software, in fact, actually injected advertising into the websites at the browser level. So what this did was let the software install root certificates to the Windows certificate store, and then it reassigned the certificates using its own. So hackers could leverage this and then steal the data or eavesdrop on the user's web activities.
Now it's time to see how one can successfully pull off a man-in-the-middle attack, and it's scarily easy. The main physical device that most people will need to pull this off will be a laptop with internet connection. With this, the rest is achievable. In order to start the process, one should open their command line and type in the traceroute command if they are connected to the Wi-Fi they wish to overtake. Then they will see the pathway their package will go through in order to access anything on that website. And while most think that their packages will only travel to the Wi-Fi router to get access to online web pages, it is more complex than that, and many involve even multiple routers all around the world for someone to gain access to their desired website. With the traceroute command, you can see each route the package went through and the IP of that router. This information will be important for later. Once all of the information is captured, the user should use the Shodan search engine. Shodan stands for Sentient Hyper-Optimized Data Access Network, and will give the user a lot more data and information on the IP of a device, sometimes even their geographical location. Since the user has the IP address for the first router their package went through, the router that resides with the local Wi-Fi, typing in the IP address into the Shodan search engine will give the user a vast amount of information on that router, such as the make and model of it, and the company that made it, and even the name of that router. Knowing this, one can simply go on Google and search up the factory default username and password for that router, as a scarcely amount of people do not change the factory password and username on their device. Once that user has obtained access to that router, they can now go online and download a packet sniffer. This software will allow the user to read the packets and display the information into a more readable and cohesive text that the user can understand. As they are reading this information, they have successfully attempted to do a man-in-the-middle attack. And with how few steps that it took, it is quite scary to picture how often this actually happens in the real world.
Ethical hacking in man-in-the-middle attacks. During man-in-the-middle attacks, cybercriminals insert themselves in the middle of data transactions or online communication. Through the distribution of malware, the attacker gains easy access to the user's web browser and the data it sends and receives during transactions. Online banking and e-commerce sites which require secure authentication with a public key and a private key are the primary targets of man-in-the-middle attacks, as they enable attackers to capture login credentials and other confidential information. Typically, these attacks are carried out through a two-step process known as data interception and decryption. Data interception entails an attacker intercepting a data transfer between a client and a server. The attacker tricks the client and the server into believing that they are exchanging information with each other, while the attacker intercepts the data, creates a connection to the real site, and acts as a proxy to read and insert false information into the communication. The following steps are involved in a common data interception technique. An attacker installs a packet sniffer to gauge any network traffic that might be insecure, such as a user accessing a hypertext transfer protocol based website or using a non-secure public hotspot. Once the user logs into the insecure website, the attacker retrieves the user's information and redirects them to a fake website. The fake website mimics the original website and gathers all the pertinent user data, which the attacker can then use to access all the user resources on the original website. The decryption phase is where the intercepted data is unencrypted. This essential step enables the attacker to finally decipher and use the data to their advantage. For example, they can carry out identity theft or cause disruptions to business operations.